Thanks, Shanaz. I just want to mention that Shanaz just totally hijacked my intro, so I'm not sure where to go from here. So, I'm Janco, I'm a developer.
And I'm Oz, I'm a tester.
So, yes, we do work at a large corporate, and we're in the same team. And over time, we've kind of been telling our story to different people of how we work together. And funny enough, when we tell the story, people go, "That's really interesting, you should talk about this." So we decided to do that, and that's really why we're here today.
So maybe just to understand our audience, can we see here who identifies themselves as developers in the crowd? Okay, that's pretty about half of the crowd. Any testers in the house? Oh, great. The only one. Any coaches, scrum masters? Yes. Managers and other people that I may have missed. Oh, great. So it looks like we've got a really nice balance, and we're hoping to generate a good conversation with you guys.
Yeah, and conversation is what we're all about. So we do have limited time, but hopefully after this you'll look us up and we'll be available under the Indaba tree, and we're happy to take questions. Put it on Twitter even, we'll respond to it later if you don't get to see us. So I want to start off, so before we get into our story, it's kind of important to establish one or two concepts that we just need a common understanding of. One of those concepts where it's a good place for us to start is, what do testers do? Now this is actually a question for you, so I'm looking for one or two responses. I knew you were going to put your hand up. That's fine, go for it, Karen. They ask questions. What else do testers do? Anyone? Sorry, I didn't get that?
Break systems.
They break systems, okay? What else?
They check for your quality.
They check for your quality. What does it mean?
So that the code and what the client actually wants is what they get. So the tester will check the acceptance criteria and stuff like that, and make sure that the code or the program does what it's supposed to. So like the quality.
Would you say it's validating requirements?
There we go.
What else do testers do? Yes.
They provide feedback to allow business to make decisions.
They provide feedback to allow business to make decisions. Yeah, that's a good one. Here's another one there. They help solve business problems. Good. Okay. So yeah, those are all good things. I also, as a developer, happen to think that testers only frustrate me, have a bit of a superiority complex. So this is, if we talk about validating requirements and that kind of thing, this is really what it comes down to. Can everyone read that? This is what testers do, right? Has anyone seen this kind of thing? It's the first thing testers do, right? Into all sorts of nonsense in it to see if it breaks. Right, and there's nothing wrong with that. This is what's called inspection. Now, inspection is defined as activities that you do to measure something, right? So I have a clicker in my hand that I'm using to forward the presentation. So I can look at this clicker, I can see, oh, it fits nicely in my hand, it's quite solid. The buttons work when I press them. I did a presentation the other day and the clicker wasn't working, so that wasn't so great. So I'm feeling this thing, I'm looking at it, I can inspect it, I have a feel for it. So that's really what inspection is. It's looking at something after it's been built. Now, that's important to know what inspection is, and we're going to park inspection just there for a moment while we go into the next question. In order for us to understand how these things work together, it's important to understand or have a shared definition of quality. So just indulge us for a moment while we go into that.
Yeah, quality has always been one of those things that we can't agree on, but in software development, Steve McConnell, the author of Code Complete, he distinctly put quality into two frames: internal quality and external quality. So let's think about internal quality for a bit. Here, we're focusing on the thought process that is going into developing the product itself. Okay, we're answering the question, have we built it right? Internal quality thinks about our understanding of the problem and the feature that we're trying to provide, or our understanding of the solution. So if we are to have high internal quality in our software, then our software we need to have clean code. We need to have code that is structured well, code that is not repeating itself, that is not overly complex, code that is a pleasure to read, because we do spend a lot of time reading code. Whether you're a tester, developer, you want to debug or find a defect or extend it, we do spend a lot of time reading the code. The code must be easy to read. And we want it to be easy to read so that we can understand it. And when we can understand the code, we can understand the business problem that we're solving, or we can understand the solution that we're providing. So why is this important for us to bother about internal quality? Because if our code is of high quality, we can read it, we understand it better, it's maintainable easier, we can test it easier, it enables us to move fast. After all, Agile is about embracing change and responding to it quickly, and that can only happen when our code is of a high quality.
Yeah, and if we move on to external quality, that really says how well it solves the problem. An example I can use, so the presentation software that I'm using right now has a feature. That feature is how to customize the presenter view. So what I'm seeing on my laptop is not what you're seeing up on the screen. I've got a nice view that tells me how much time is remaining on my presentation.
You must be using Mac, because it doesn't exist on Windows.
So yes, I am using Mac, and it does actually exist on Windows. So this presenter view, I can customize. I can put a timer up, I can move it around, I can show my current slide, the next slide, all of those things, which is a really nice feature. I can move things around and customize it. But there's one problem with this feature. If I use it and then start the presentation, it crashes. Now you can imagine how that makes a presenter feel up on stage, to know that there's a possibility that this thing can crash as soon as you use it. So, do I trust that feature? Anyone want to venture a guess? I don't. I don't trust that feature. As a user of this product, and it's very relevant because it's software, I don't regard that as extremely high quality. So, external quality is the stuff that affects me as a user of it. So I didn't build it, I'm just using it. It's the stuff that I can see and experience after the fact. It speaks to how well it solves my problem. So now if we get back to, we said let's park inspection for a moment. And we've spoken about what quality is internal versus external. Now, the question becomes, can inspection add to quality? So remember, inspection is something that you apply after the fact. It's done once the product has been built. So this clicker is built, it's done, I can inspect it, but can I add to the quality of it? No? Okay, lots of heads shaking. I can't. I don't have an opportunity. I'm not part of the manufacturing process. I can't do that. So now the question becomes, and especially, I'm going to maybe say something a bit controversial. If you want to talk about it, let's go have a meeting under the tree. So we call testers, sometimes we call them QA people. What does QA stand for? Quality assurance. Now, if testers spend most of their time inspecting things, please tell me how they can assure quality into a product. If the first time that they get to see something is after it's been built and they inspect it, what is the opportunity for testers to add to the quality of a product? So with the crowd that's in this room, I expect you, at least all or most of you, to know who Deming was. So Deming, colloquially known as the father of quality, had a big impact on Japanese industry. Toyota management credits him for what they've done and eventually coming up with the Toyota production system. This is what he had to say. Inspection does not improve the quality nor guarantee quality. Inspection is too late. The quality, good or bad, is already in the product. He went on to quote Harold Dodge, which basically said the same thing. You cannot inspect quality into a product. So the question then becomes, well, how can testers contribute to quality?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And for us to be able to answer that, we need to maybe take one step back and think, what can testers bring to the table? What is it that they have in them that we can use to make a decision on whether they can affect quality or not? But for us to do that, we need to take it a step further and look at the tester's mindset. How are testers wired? How do they think? How do they act? Maybe if we seek to understand them better, we can find those things that will actually make an impact on real quality. So let's think about the tester's mindset, for example. These are some of the things we have seen and that we know about testers. Testers are testers because they are very good at testing. Testers will test everything, anything. You see a tester at a microwave, they're pressing all the other buttons you didn't know they existed. All you want is to do is start and warm up your food, and the tester's going, I wonder if that's going to make my food blow. What's that? They are testing everything, but that's a good thing because testers are obsessed by questioning. They're obsessed of, they have an obsession of analyzing things, analyzing risks. So what does that give us? It gives us the opportunity for testers to be able to test and question a problem, a requirement, a defect. Before we start writing a line of code and we know we have a problem, the tester will ask the silly question. But that's not a silly question. That is a question that determines whether we should be focusing on this thing or not. Testers are good at questioning and challenging assumptions. We all come in trying to write code or to build up a solution with a whole lot of assumptions. But if we don't challenge them, if we don't test them, they can be a rabbit hole. Testers are good at challenging those assumptions. Testers are really good at analyzing risk. They ask, what if? They ask, oh, remember that time that happened and something else broke? That is risk analysis that's coming for free in our team. As we think about developing something, testers are good at that. Testers are also great representatives of the customer in a development team. So we don't always have the client or the customer present, but testers are good role players. They will think about the customer, they will represent the customer, they will think about what's important in this feature, in this product that we need to focus on. Testers are, I think we're running a bit of time, but testers have a lot of good things that they can offer, and these are just some of them. And if we to use those things that testers do within the development, not to wait until after the code has been written and the product is there and we say, testers, can you test? If we had to leverage on these things and use them during the process of actually developing something, how awesome would it be if we can get those things that can affect quality? Wouldn't we be fools if we can't leverage on that? No.
So then, the obvious question is, how do we leverage that tester's mindset? So testers obviously bring something else to the table. Developers are so focused on solving the problem at hand that they don't always see the wood for the trees. So we're going to how our team does this. So this is what we found works for us. And these are some of the principles. There's actually a whole, as I started writing these down, I realized there's too many to put up here, but we'll see through how many of these we get. So first of all, Our team is focused on delivering value end to end. We're in a position where we can go from concept or idea to something working in production with zero or very, very limited external dependencies. And that is critical. So the next one is we embrace cross-functionality and diversity. On our team, we have various different people. We have testers, we have developers, we have people with specialized skills in databases, in DevOps, in infrastructure. But we're one team. We don't have several different teams where these things are focused on. We have one team with all of the skills necessary to do that. If you want to go and deliver value end to end, you need everyone, a representative of each of these areas in one team in order to do that. Quality is everyone's responsibility. Quality is not the tester's responsibility. It's not the developer's responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility. So as I said earlier, when we start with a new story or a feature, we ask a question first. We start questioning. That's where quality starts. Quality is not something you tack on at the end. It's not something you start thinking about. Thanks, Donnie, I can hear you. So the next, okay, we'll just ignore them. That's fine. We start with testing and we don't stop. As I said, when you start with a feature or a new story, the first thing we do is we actually figure out how are we going to test this. So testing is not an afterthought. Amplified communication. Why send an email when you can make a phone call? Why make a phone call when you can speak to the person next to you? So, communication, we need to optimize for high bandwidth communication. If I send an email, what's the feedback loop on an email? It could be anything from hours to days to weeks to months. Right? So phone calls are better, right? Because you get immediate feedback. It's two-way conversation happening. But the problem is I don't get to see you. I don't get to experience your facial expressions. I don't get to communicate with you person to person. There's still this abstraction in the way. Having a team that is able to deliver end-to-end with all of the skills necessary in one room, solving the same problem, the amount of communication that you get, or the signal-to-noise ratio that you get, is orders of magnitude higher than what you would get otherwise. Collaboration and not competition. Because we're on one team and we're focused on delivering value, I'm not scared of a tester going to try and catch me out. I know that we're here to solve the same problem. I know that we're focused on delivering the same value to our users. We measure value, not individuals. So this is kind of what enables the previous point. If you focus on measuring individuals, what do you get? It's a really bad example, and I hope none of you are doing this. Measuring developers by lines of code they write. Okay? If you are doing this, it's a bad thing. Please stop it now.
Or testers by the number of bugs they catch.
Which unfortunately, that seems to be a thing still in some places. Testers measured by the number of bugs that they find. Why don't we spend that effort in figuring out how to prevent the bugs in the first place? So it really all comes down to this. This is how we see ourselves. We see ourselves as problem solvers. So yes, I'm a developer. I can write code. Yes, Oz is a tester. He knows how to test stuff. Right? But we're all in the same team with the same common goal. I understand that at the other end, the only thing that matters is a happy customer. And we're going to do whatever that takes to make that customer happy. So this is really, it's at the crux of everything we do. This is how we see ourselves. We value our individual skills. So people bring different things to the table, but eventually it all comes down to that. So if this is kind of interesting to you and you say, sure, that sounds good, but how do we practically do this? Here are a couple of things that you can actually start doing right now, which we're doing.
Yeah, so what we're seeing that works for us is testers and developers must move in together. No, seriously, just stay in there together, work in the same environment, in the same space. If you can do it, what that does, it starts to break the barrier between you're a tester, you're a developer. You come into the same office, you're working on the same code base, you're having coffee together, you start to have conversations, and that builds relationships. And from that relationship, it fosters a culture of trust, a culture of wanting to work together, a culture of identity. We have the same identity, and we can work together. So that is the first thing. And once that culture exists, you find a tester or a dev that you can work with, that you can have conversations with. Test-driven development is a great place to start. As a developer, pull in a tester. Whether they can understand the code or not, that is not the focus. The focus is on the thinking process, because software development is an intellectual. It's about thinking. It's not about how fast we can type. So the more people we have on a problem then the better. Steve, I know you like to type fast, but it's not about that. Okay. Yeah. Then, for testers, get a developer to pair test with you. What that does, it gives you that shared context. You understand better as a developer how testers approach testing of software. You're now able to understand the areas of focus that we need to think about, whatever feature or bug or whatever it is that we're building together. But it gives that level of mutual respect. It builds that mutual communication that is required for us to move faster. Most of all, the feedback loop is shortened, because instead of tester going off testing for 2 hours and spending another hour drawing up emails with red exclamation marks and circles and sending it off to a developer who's going to start by whining, you can cut that by having a conversation and working together. This has worked for us. Meetings and conversations. If you have meetings and conversations within your teams and you leave out the testers, then you're missing it. How can testers test upfront if they're not involved in the conversations? They need to be in the meetings. They need to be in the conversations. They need to be a part of it. They need to be given that space where they can open up and contribute and ask, and not be looked upon as you're asking the dumb question or you're asking again. But they should be encouraged to ask, because that gives the team focus on where we should be going and where we shouldn't be. What is the value that we're trying to create at this point?
Yeah, to add on to that point, so testers have this extremely risk-aware mindset. Right? Developers are like, oh, there's a problem, we'll solve it with code. That's the default reaction for developers. Testers have a more kind of, yes.
I don't have this.
Sorry, I can't hear.
I don't have what you said.
You don't have what I said.
Developers have this. No, I don't have it.
Okay, well, let's have a discussion about that afterwards. So those are some practical things that you can start doing right now. So this is just for us to show you how we do it. There's a picture of our team board. Now, what's important to note is, so normally on boards like this, work goes from left to right. When you start something new, it goes from the left to the right. Ours actually works the other way around. And we can chat about that afterwards if you find it confusing or interesting. So what we'd like to focus on, though, is, given that it goes from right to left, if we focus on the column on the right-hand side there. So that would be the first one the stories get into.
Yeah, and as soon as we know there's a piece of work that needs to be done, a bug that has been, or a defect that is on the system, we take it straight to test assumptions. So the first thing that we do as a team is to test. We're testing the problem. We're asking, what is the problem? Why do we even need this in the first place? For all you know, it's a screen that is broken, but that nobody has used for 2 years. So why should we bother fixing it? It's not needed anymore. But that is the place where we start asking the questions, where we start to think about the value that we need to create, where we think about the real quality, and it's in that place. I must also add that in test assumptions, we've had cards that came in and got out of their problem solved with not a single line of code written, because you realize it may be a process issue, maybe it's a timing issue that happened, but that can happen. And in light of our culture of involving testers, if you look on the red circle there, we have the team members. Those are the names of all our team members, and the red dots are markers, which are rosters really, on when the next person, who is the next to do stand-up, to run stand-up, who is the next person to be on support. We have a weekly roster of supports in our system. Who's the next person to run our retrospective? It doesn't have to be a Scrum Master or anyone. And whether you're a tester or a dev or whatever, if the tag is on you, you're going to do it. Who is the next person to chair the code retreat? Not code retreat, code review. So that is in our support of having testers and everyone in the team having a first-class citizenship in the team and being able to run and do things as a developer or as anyone else.
There's another example of a tester, guy who looks vaguely familiar, running a stand-up. So again, no hierarchies, no anything. No one is more important than anyone else on the team. We're all people with just different skills. Some more examples of meetings. Oh, how did that bottom one get on there?
It's a valid meeting point.
Valid meeting point. Yes, absolutely. That's where some of the best discussions actually happen. So this is a typical team meeting, the top right, where we have a discussion and everyone is in there, testers included. So there's two guys pairing. I'm not sure if they're testing or developing or just pointing fingers. And some more examples. And this is what our office looks like every day. That's just how we work. It's not a scheduled thing we do every now and again. That's just how we work.
So throughout our journey, we've come to see that real quality happens when you take development and testing and you blend them together until you cannot tell them apart. Because it's not about how good the testing is or how good the development is. It's that fusion that happens that develops the real quality. It's like cake, you know. You can't taste the salt, the sugar, or the flour, but you'll know it when you get a really good cake for dessert. And that's how we found quality to be. So.
And with that, that's us, and we'd really like some questions afterwards in the Meridian room, because we don't have time here. But yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Janco. Thanks all.